name is Shlomo. I'm a project manager for Kahina Digital Marketing. I'm here with my cohorts and colleagues. And I'm giving a quick presentation today about an infographic that I recently built for a client. The title, as you can see in the PowerPoint, is Survey Infographic, Building Links to Safeway. Basically, to give you a quick outline, an infographic is really interesting because it captures a really broad spectrum of the internet and the web. And when you do a survey, you involve other people. And these people have websites. And that's kind of the safer way to get links through a visual piece of content. Let's get into it. So I basically outlined 3 basic steps for my project. Coming up with an idea, creating that idea, right, putting it onto the paper or document, if you will. And then there's the curation and outreach, right, involving other people and getting them to link to it. So start with the idea. Basically, for every brand, for every topic, you want to come up, it's a funny word, sexy, but that's what it is, right? For this company, they didn't really have much of a brand. We dealt with, they sell bedding material, satin sheets, even curtains. It's not the most fun kind of e-commerce site. However, you can still come up with a sexy sort of topic, and that topic we came up with was sleep, right? Everybody is interested in sleep. Really, the entire world is, and that's a very broad topic, obviously, right? It relates to everybody. However, there's this idea of sometimes it could be too broad, so you also want to capture a niche element, right? Targeting your broad topic towards specific people. So I'm going to get into how we did that. Exploring your topic. So when I came up with the idea of sleep. Again, where do you begin, right? How do you fall asleep? How long should you sleep for? There are so many ideas. You could write 1,000 blog posts about sleep, right? Or infographics, whatever. So really, you have to get down to the basics. Just go to Google. It's kind of funny in SEO to tell someone to go to Google, but Google Images, just type in the word sleep, the keyword, then type in the word infographic, and you'll just get a really quick, brainstorm of just a lot of images that you can scroll over, eyeball, and it really kind of gets your creative juices going. SlideShare and BuzzSumo are 2 pretty well-known content sites that I wanted to show. I'm sure you all know how to do it, but just to show you really how I look for stuff. SlideShare, you can filter down just a little bit more than people generally do. You can choose a category, choose a type. So obviously I chose infographic. English is obviously the language that I want. And you can just also look by recency. And this isn't sleep, obviously, but I was just using an example. So SlideShare is pretty useful for that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, Rachel.
When you were using SlideShare, was this for ideas for the infographic or just of...
This is really like starting from scratch. Like, where do I begin? What's popular? What infographics have performed well in the sleep
Like, what
sphere?
have people done already versus like what opportunities exist?
Were you looking to see what people had already done?
This is Shayna, by the way.
Hi.
Shayna also assisted me a little bit on the infographic.
I did. Yeah. Were you looking in order to, because you wanted to put something new and fresh out there, or this was just like the beginning of the brainstorming process?
This is really the beginning. Like where do I begin? This is like Google Images, SlideShare. What's done well in the past? Where can I kind of, glean ideas from? BuzzSumo is a little bit more interesting because it gives you a little bit of kind of nitty-gritty of numbers. If you look, it's a little bit blurry here, but they gave you the total shares, which is really more important for me. SlideShare is just who happened to go to the SlideShare website, right? But this actually counts how many times this was shared on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. These are the things we care about. So I found the most effective. It really depends on your brand and company you're working for, but I went with Twitter as the most. I went with Twitter as the kind of barometer. And Shayna actually helped me with a lot of the Twitter outreach, and that's why we were able to kind of use this as a good barometer. And you can actually see the shares of each infographic, which is really remarkable. So you can quickly get a list of 50 or 100 people who share the infographic or whatever piece of content on Twitter, and you can even filter down past that, and you can choose who are the most influential Twitter people, and say the most followers and who shared it, and you can really get a pretty heavy list of people. I think you have to upgrade to Pro in order to access that. And they also let you view backlinks. You don't need BuzzSumo for that, but it's still a very kind of useful way to really see, in terms of hard numbers, what has performed well.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can. This is Jeremy, by the way.
Went with Twitter as opposed to like Facebook, which seems to have a larger base of people. Like you reach a larger audience with Facebook than with Twitter.
Sure, yeah. honestly, I really think it doesn't really matter. I was just kind of being particular. I think the default is Facebook, and the company that we're working for, they have a Twitter presence. They have no Facebook presence, so I just kind of use that. But I don't really think it matters, to be honest. All right, so I touched earlier on broad versus niche. I just want to dive into that a little bit more. With a broad topic, sleep, again, it relates to approximately 6 billion people, right? We all go to sleep at night, ostensibly. But the niche element, right? Obviously, we're not going to get 6 billion links. That might be a little bit too much, I think.
Shoot for the stars.
So you want to kind of grab that niche kind of element. So there's kind of a sweet spot in the middle, right? How can I take a really broad, cool, interesting topic and grab a specific element of people who are like, oh, that's interesting. So what we came up with, and discussing with my colleague David, was basically reaching out to sleep experts, right? People who have some skin in the games, people whose business is sleep, right? People who want to participate and will help collaborate with you and actually give you information for your content. So the survey strategy that we came up with was basically locating these experts. This is actually the beginning of the curation. It falls into the idea part of the content. But basically finding these experts, they give you free information, right? You come up with a survey, 10 questions. Some of them give you some really good answers, and you're going to put that in a post, and that's going to be your content. So they're essentially doing some work for you. It's really good. There's also the buy-in aspect, right? If I contact you and I say, hey, you're an expert in this field, the person is actually pleased to hear that, depending on their level, right? So if I find a sleep expert online and I say, hey, I noticed you're a sleep expert, we're polling the top sleep experts in America, would you like to participate? My guess is that they'd want to participate because it helps their business. And you're also curating a relationship, right? You don't know where this relationship can lead to. It's not just about getting the link for this infographic. It's about, they're now connecting with you. And you can use it down the line. Obviously, I'm still exploring that aspect. Whether it's going to be future social media sharing, right? You connect with them on Twitter. Maybe they'll tweet future tweets of yours, etc. Future collaboration. All right, content creation, chapter 2. So really, you have to create a blueprint on how you want your, let's say, infographic is the word we're using here, or visual dynamic piece of content. How do you want it to appear? So how can you envision it looking on your participants' blogs, right? Or in my case, the experts, the sleep experts that we dealt with. Does this piece of content, or how will this piece of content fit into their blog, right? Does it make sense for them to link to it? Obviously, you want it to, so you have to kind of keep that in mind. Also, think about your client's blog, right? After all, at the end of the day, the one place that we know this piece of content is going is on your client's blog. You can't look at a place, and that really depends on your relationship with them and the type of sphere that they're in. The other aspect is the random aggregate site. The hope is that you create a piece of content so interesting that it goes, viral. Obviously, virility or whatever the word. How do you say it? Virility is a male word. That doesn't make sense.
Virality?
Virality, yeah. Virality is kind of a very tricky thing to pin down. But the hope is that some, random editor of some big website will link to your content and write up about it. And then there's also the designer's eyes, right? You're working with a graphic designer, and you have to give them a little bit of freedom, right? So here's just a quick blueprint in terms of what I sent over. I can send this to people afterwards if you want to see. I actually got this from David from his original infographic from a year ago. Basically, sending over, look, this is the text, don't touch with that. Here's the blue part. That's going to be where you're going to be illustrating something. I gave a quick question, most common causes of sleep deprivation, and I wrote insert a visual. A person looking nervous while lying in bed, right? Very, very basic. I want the graphic designer to kind of have a little bit of freedom to work with that, and then text on the bottom. So this is really just, an actual blueprint. And that's kind of that's an example of one of the slides that they did, right? Person looking nervous in bed, but I feel like they did a good job with it. They put the text there, it looks nice. One of the things which I was kind of going back and forth with Ari was basically how much text do you want to put there, right? We have so much information, I really wanted to load up these slides with text. But as you can see here, less is more, right? It lets the picture breathe a little bit. It seems a little bit more shareable this way. Here are some, yeah.
Quick question.
Sure.
Would you put, as a branding technique, you have the company's logo in the bottom right corner,
right,
subtly, so that you get brand exposure when it's linked, not just like links used in SEO?
Yeah, so we thought about that and ultimately nixed it because, even though, let's say somebody shares just this image, you might think, oh, we're losing a branding opportunity. But, the company and their name, it felt like a little bit too commercially to just stick their logo on every single slide. Because we also did put these all together as one big infographic, and we felt at the top and the bottom was sufficient. The other thing was, if we ever did, in the few cases that we did get shares, right, people who shared these specific images, we got a link in the end anyway. So,
But I'm saying like just like a watermark kind of thing, so it's like subtle but there.
yeah, I mean, as subtle as it is, it's still there, and I feel like it takes away a little bit from the content aspect. So I didn't want to. I felt like I was playing it safe.
Also, just one thing to keep in mind is that if it seems like it's too promotional for the brand, Facebook has a rule that not more than 20% of the area of the picture can be text. Otherwise, they'll take it down.
Good to know. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, these are just 2 other slides. Again, I didn't really give too much direction. I mean, I gave a little bit, but I feel like they did a pretty good job of catching it in essence. And we actually got a few links from random design sites who liked these slides, and I attribute that to the designer who we gave freedom to work with. All right, so another element is chopped up versus full size. Ari from the beginning was very vehement about chopping it up, right? Different slides. And as I looked into it, a lot of, it was recommended by industry experts. Now that's not a reason in itself, obviously, why they're recommending it. And the reason they are is because it's really more shareable. When you have individual slides, right, it's very easy to kind of just like send it out. It's so kind of quick snapshot. It's not a whole long infographic, which is obviously a little bit difficult. The one issue that I found was it felt a little bit scattered. If you go to the original post, which we've all seen, it's kind of like image, text, image, text, image, text. It wasn't kind of one piece of content, but that's a personal thing. And then the full size aspect. The pros to having a full size infographic is that you can actually submit it to infographic sites. Our current piece of content as it is was not really submittable because it wasn't a formal infographic. And the other aspect was reverse image search. Because it was chopped up, I was able to right-click, reverse image search all 10 of the slides, and I actually found a few websites which had scraped the image. When you have a full-size infographic, that's a little bit more tricky to just right-click and search for an entire infographic. You have to break it up. Obviously, there are workarounds around that. Unless I'm missing something, I found the easiest trick to search for a part of an infographic was just to send a screenshot of one of the slides in an email, and then you can right-click in Gmail and reverse image search. I don't know if anyone has any other tricks for kind of searching for a portion of the infographic, but that was the easiest way that I came up with.
What makes it like a formal infographic versus a non-formal infographic?
Formal is just like a long JPEG, basically, that you kind of scroll down. Chopped up is basically an image, then you have some text, an image, then some text. Yeah, you have a question, Susan?
Yeah, was there a reason that you didn't kind of do both, of like have separate images and then take them and compile them into one image?
It's a great question. We did do both in the end. I kind of reconciled the chopped up aspect, and I asked the designer to give me also a full JPEG, and I did submit that to some infographic sites, but it didn't seem like an infographic. It just seemed like slide 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, we did have that aspect, but like it's either or. You can't really get the best of both worlds. Information load. So this is what I just covered this basically. How much text do you put on there? We really went with the less is more approach. For here, one other interesting aspect was the eagle bait idea. In terms of the survey expert, right, the expert participation, I thought a kind of a nifty way to stroke the egos of these sleep experts a little bit more was to put their names in the actual slides, right? Let's say Catherine, she says, you need to sleep at least 8 hours a night. And then when I sent her that, hey, look, Catherine, we quoted you on the actual image on this really cool illustration, I felt that would be a pretty clever way to stroke the ego a little bit more and compel them to link to the post. The downside of that, and as Ari pointed out, it does make the image look a little bit cluttered. So we did the first batch of slides, there are about 7 of them, and we put names on each one, and it looked a little bit like random, like why is there a name there? So what I did was I saved those for later, and I used them in the outreach emails. And I said, hey, in our initial presentation, we included your name because we loved your quote. Feel free to use this for your website. So on our site, there are no names in the slides, as you can see, as you saw earlier. But on some of the bloggers who linked to us, their name is indeed on the image because we had that and it was kind of useful. So I think in the future, I actually might commission two sets of slides. One for me for my personal outreach strategy, and the other just for the public posts that we put on our website.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may. Perfect timing. Sure. Yeah.
I know that you've done another infographic where it was also a survey and there wasn't people's names on it.
Yeah.
You found that you got more links when you actually put the survey participants' names on the slides.
So it's a little bit early to say because the second infographic, we just published it 2 weeks ago, and we're still getting links. It's in the early stages. We actually just got a link this morning from mentalfloss.com, which is really exciting.
It is.
My coworker Tova curated that link. But basically, yeah, a formal infographic, it's hard to stick names in because it's like a little bit cluttered. But what I did for that one was at the very end, I put references here that people were participated. And it's still a little bit of an ego thing, just less so, I guess. All right, so the third chapter of my presentation, curation and outreach. Now, curation really starts from the very beginning. When you're looking at popular infographics, the SEO part of you is probably going to be curious. Who's linking to this, right? What kind of people are sharing this this content? Also, potential experts. What's your topic? Who are we going to be looking for? Do they have blogs, right? Exploring the web. What types of personalities are sharing this content? What type of aggregate sites are sharing this content? Also find influencers, Twitter and Pinterest. I don't want to get into that too much, social media, because that's for each to decide on their own. But basically, for this aspect, what I did was, just go to Google and type in as many variations as you could think to find the ultimate, list of experts. I eventually found about 100 sleep experts who we emailed my first batch of outreach, and these are just some of the random things I typed into Google, off the top of my head. But really, just think of as many variations as you can to get a really good list of people. Now, there's something that I noticed in terms of experts. The ideal expert is somebody who has, let's say for sleep, you have a sleep consulting business, right? And you happen to have a blog. Now, one of the things I want to point out is, sure, from an SEO perspective, if they don't have a blog, you probably want to toss it, right? It's a bad lead, it's a bad expert. But I don't think you should discount those people, right? If you're emailing 100 experts who have blogs, but there's another guy who has a sleep consulting business, but he has no formal blog, right? There's no formal place for the content to link to. SEO would dictate you should scrap that guy, but I think you should email him anyway. Honestly, it takes another 30 seconds or 2 minutes of work, but also you never know how that could manifest itself later on. He might have a personal blog which you were unaware of, which happened with another client, or he might have a social media presence. Don't just think in terms of the link, think in terms of relationships. Ideally, you want every person you reach out to have a place to link to your content, but don't let that be the main factor or the leading factor. And then in terms of bloggers, just be aware of no funny business, right? You don't want a lot of the mommy bloggers have like affiliate links, sponsored links. It really should be a kind of an honest website, an honest organic website. And this is actually a little bit of an epiphany that I had recently. It's the idea of bloggers versus businessmen, right? I feel like nowadays, this quote unquote blogger, right? It's kind of veered towards, hey, what can I write about this week? Who's going to be sending me a free sample that I can talk about, right? We have these mommy bloggers. They represent such a strong aspect, such a strong web presence, right? But it's gotten to the point where they're just loaded with affiliate links. They're getting free stuff. Every one of their posts is a sponsored post. You can't really talk to them unless you're going to write them a check. That's how it feels. Versus, and this is where I targeted, people who happen to have a blog, right? You don't want to target somebody who's a blogger necessarily. What I found to be more effective is target a businessman, right?
Or woman.
What's that?
Or woman.
Sure, yeah. Isn't businessman the vernacular word?
Business person.
Business person, yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually ironic because all the sleep experts were women, like 98%. It's amazing. Who knew that women were such experts at sleeping? But
We don't see them.
yeah. So I found it to be much more effective for me in this particular strategy to target people who happen to have a blog, right? A sleep expert. They have their business in a city, and they want to get promotion, and they're contacted by somebody like me who says, hey, we want to interview you, we're going to feature you on our website. They'll say, sure, why not? And then I'll say, hey, I noticed you have a blog here, would you mind linking to this? Do you think your readers would be interested? And they'll think, yeah, why not? It makes sense. They just featured me on their blog. I'll link to them. And I think that's really kind of a very important distinction, right? bloggers versus people who happen to have a blog, who don't necessarily sniff out the fact that you want a link from them, and rather, are happy to do it on their own volition later on. So honestly, I really want to drive home to this point about the mommy bloggers. Imagine you sent out a survey, right, like I did, instead of to 100 sleep experts, to 100 mommy bloggers. Now, I actually sent out to 100 sleep experts, and I got about maybe 20 to 22 responses in the beginning, something like that. And you would think it's a paltry number. And mommy bloggers, they might all respond to you, but these are the people you're going to be dealing with, right? They're just like, all they care about is getting some free item. And I don't even think you should bother with them. I also think maybe down the line, to just go off topic a little bit, I think it might get to the point, I don't know if anyone here will agree or disagree, that Google is going to realize that these mommy bloggers are just posting purely
affiliate marketers.
But not
Call it
even
that
that.
way.
Forget affiliate marketers. What about like sponsored links? Like, hey, I got this free watch. I'm going to write about
Well,
it.
that's the whole flowers situation from a few years ago. There was a flower shop that had their site shut down or something because, not shut down, but penalized.
De-indexed?
Yeah,
Yeah.
de-indexed because they were sending out free flowers to people who would review them.
Right.
And there's a whole
Well, you can't buy links. That's
you can't buy
illegal.
links, and that's what they're saying. It doesn't have to necessarily be an exchange of cash, but it has to be an exchange of goods.
Right. And I think this woman's website, it seems pretty clear to me that.
And a lot of the mommy bloggers, as you like to call them, it's kind of that same idea where it's an exchange of goods. If I send you a free diaper bag, will you review it? Hey, you just got a $100 diaper bag. Like, yes, you could send out a free, what's this site? It's a set of sheets.
Yeah,
You said.
bedding,
So,
yeah.
so you send out a set of bedding, and to review the bedding, you just got a $200 set of silk bedding.
Right.
Like, of course, there's going to be some incentive for you to want to give a good review for it because you just got free stuff out of it, and you want to continue to get free stuff. If you're always giving bad reviews about things, people aren't necessarily going to want to send you free stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not discounting the idea of referral traffic, right? I'm sure if you get a link from her website, you'll get a lot of traffic. But in terms of organic and getting some real equity, I don't know if it's how future-proof it is also.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't trust anyone who wears that much makeup with sweatpants.
Yeah, or has just gold lying around and money coming out of it.
She has the bills.
That sounds like
coming
she's
up.
not financially savvy at all.
It's actually not that much money. It's only 20s. So.
I guess you can go hundreds in there.
So the outreach aspect, right? You want to personalize emails. Now, if you're emailing 90 or 100 sleep experts, you can't sit there and personalize each one. Sure, you might get a higher response rate, a more quality response rate, but you have to. There's only so many hours in a day, and you do have to sleep at night. So,
The other one.
that was not scripted. Makes it so much funnier.
Was that?
Yes. So basically, how do you personalize this? So for this one, you want to find, or for any content project, you want to find just one quick little thing where you can quickly personalize the email, so you can really bang out, a lot of emails in a day. For this one, I just went with the title of the person. Sleep expert might work, but if on their website in the about page they said I am a child sleep consultant, then I use the exact title that they used to try and show them that I looked into their site just a little bit. Here's an example of an outreach email that I came up with David's assistance. Basically, my company's conducting. I'm being honest from the start. This is what I want. Now, here's the personalized aspect as a certified child sleep consultant, right? I'm telling them I know who you are. I'm impressed with your background, blah, blah. I think that you're unique. Would you be interested in helping us? And thanks so much for your time. Be a little bit cheery. Thank you, Alan. It's all made up names. Yeah.
Did you actually address them by name? Like you took the time to
Of course,
find their
yeah.
name and
Yeah, the name is, that's like, for sure you have to have the name.
Is there a way to kind of like aggregate so like it just like automatically fills in the name, company?
I don't know, it just seems...
MailChimp. I wouldn't even say MailChimp. There's Excel has mail merge. Yeah.
I didn't do that. I don't know.
Okay.
I just, yeah.
Without subject fields.
It's a great question. I actually didn't talk about that. I'm talking about that later, but it's a good question. We'll talk about that later. I left that part out. Okay, so there's the idea of persistence and courage. It's very kind of deflating when you... I just laughed because this guy's a Patriots fan. I said the word deflate. But anyways, it is very deflating to send out 100 emails and get very few responses. It's like, who are these 82 people who just, what are they doing all day? Like, I want to interview for my survey. Don't you want your business to get exposure on the bottom of my content piece? But, you know, it was almost like, it is a little bit disillusioning, and you really have to, like, be in it for the long haul. You'll get links 2 months after you publish something. And now what about those people, right? I got 18 initial replies. I think that was about that. There's another 82 people who are just sitting out there. So what did I do? I sent out what I call a dermy. What is a dermy? Dermy is called Did You Receive My Email? It's created by David Wiseman. He's my coworker. And basically, it's a stock email template which you can just send out to anybody. There's no personalization at all. Same subject line, Did you receive my email? All you're doing is writing the name. Hey, so-and-so. And I'll show you the template in a second. Now, the main point here is to use a new email draft. Why? Because if you follow-up email from the previous one where I sent, hey, you want to participate in my survey, blah, blah, and then you kind of reply from that, it shows that obviously they received your email. So it's like, you want to give them a way to save face. And I'll show you, there are a few people who said, oh yeah, I never got your email. Can you resend it? Obviously they're lying, but that's fine. I just want a link from you. So I'm going to...
Spam.
Yeah,
Well,
but
you
it's
could go on
if you
spam.
went to spam, and if you reply with the same one, it's just going to stay in spam. Like
My emails don't go to spam.
Well, I mean,
If you change the subject, it creates a new email.
but no, I know. I'm saying that's another reason to change the subject, but
yeah. I was going to say, that goes to what Max was brought up about the subject. Like, is there a subject line that sends it essentially to spam that will pick it up?
maybe the fact that you're saying the word survey, like there's some triggers.
It could be.
Yeah. Have you looked into that yet, or?
Talk about it later.
Wait,
Okay.
so Shlomo, just to
Yeah.
clarify, it's a full separate email that you draft? With
Show you right
separate
now.
All right.
There you go. It's a stock template. Just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, over and over. The only thing you have to make sure of is the name.
Did you take the initial email you sent and then put that on and change the
Did you
subject line?
include it?
No.
Or just this is a full...
Not at all. This is a
Maybe
separate
brand new.
email.
I
It's a
see.
separate email because it would be ridiculous to include their previous email because that would prove to them that they already got it.
Here's a copy below in case you missed it.
You can do that as well. But this is kind of like,
Right.
it covers both sides. Maybe they didn't get it. Maybe it went to spam. Oh, this is interesting. A survey? Okay.
Maybe they intended to reply to it, but they got busy.
Right, and also a common symptom with the dermy email is that someone will reply to it and then ask what it was about, and you'll tell them, and then you'll never hear from them again. Also.
Right, but it's an effective way of basically getting more responses, right? I only got 18 before, now I got another 10. Basically just fell from the heavens. Here's some responses I got just from dermies, which is, kind of exciting. The first person just said, hey, I'll list it as a resource. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Okay. The second person, I did get it, thank you. Now, you would think, oh, this person is just a little bit, is not on the same page as I am. They're not going to link. But really, this is just an opening because they're acknowledging that they got it, and now I can kind of open correspondence and say, okay, that's great. What did you think about it? And then they're like, oh, I thought it was cool. Okay, cool. What do you think your readers would be interested in? And it's kind of a way of kind of leading them down this path to try and get that holy grail, which is the link. The third one, they didn't get it honestly because the person I sent it to doesn't work there anymore, and I resent it, and that was a new correspondence. The fourth one, I don't know if it went to their spam or they're lying. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. We ended up getting a link from her, and this letter kind of saved face. I waited 4 days. She didn't respond. I sent a very honest, innocent email. Did you receive my email? I'm concerned, let's say. And she wrote back, and that was it. So, now just a few quick things. After you publish the content, right, you need to follow up with these people, right? Right. The dermy is if they didn't respond. But what about those people who are on board? They're with you from the beginning. You need to kind of I can send you all the template afterwards, but basically express excitement. Hey, we just finished this. We're really excited. Thank you so much for participating. Here's a link. And then obviously you don't want to just say, okay, have a nice life. You want to still get that link, but you can't say, hey, can you please link to this? That's a little bit too forward. So you want to just say, what are your thoughts about this? Do you think your readers would be interested? And kind of ending with a request, kind of put them on that road towards where you want to lead them. Now, obviously, every email correspondence goes a different way. There's no template that works 100% across the board. So these are just, it would take, I could show you 100 different emails, but basically the main rules are obviously be grateful to them, right? Because they went out of their way you know, you're not paying them. We're not sending them a bag full of whatever cash. So be grateful for the fact that they participated, and also be creative. There was one who basically said he didn't think it was relevant to his blog, so I said to him, and I noticed this person had sold a few things on his website. So I said, hey, how about we feature your website and on our blog, and then in return, you know, you can link back to us. I was actually a little bit forward there, perhaps pushy, and he said, sure, that sounds like a great idea. So we're still in communication about that, but you know, that's about being agile. You know, you might have to go off the script a little bit. Okay, he doesn't want to link to the content, but I'm emailing with this person. He has a blog. I'm going to get a link from this guy. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. So you have to kind of, you know, be agile, find different ways to get links. Yeah, you want to add something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like when you sent them the visual.
Yeah.
Yeah, David, you want to speak about it?
Tell everybody.
But yeah,
We're recording.
Basically, when you actually sent them and they could see it for the first time what it looked like, and it was not just some crazy spammy thing, their response to how nice it looked.
Yeah. And I agree. Yeah.
But basically, they, you know, there's a bit of you go dark for a little bit between like contacting them initially and then it being made and all that. So you like speak to them just before it goes live and you say like, it's about to go live. What do you think? And then normally they're like blown away by what it looks like because it looks really good and they're like, wow, this is great. And then there's a few people that aren't involved with the survey that you can show it to them, and then they want to get involved. Didn't that happen with a few?
Sort of. I made a half-hearted attempt to contact, you know, I found a few experts or sleep sites after the fact, and I just kind of emailed them saying, hey, we just did this, you know, do you want to feature it on your website? But yeah, the point is, as David is saying, you know, you have to be agile. There's no like formal template. You know, you want to email them before, get them excited. You might find a blogger later on. You have to change the template and say, hey, we just published this. You know, what do you think? What do you think about it? Do you think your readers will be interested? It's about being agile and I guess creative as well. And then there's also the manual submission aspect. These are these are 4 main websites. Probably heard of most of them. I would just upload it and share them as well. SlideShare, visually. We actually got a few links which scraped from both SlideShare and visually. There are actually professional or whatever bloggers and editors who look at SlideShare and visually, and if they like it, they'll link to it, and they might even write up a blurb about it. And then there's also infographic websites, which is kind of a dangerous road to go down, because if there's a website which exists purely to upload and link to infographics, it might not hurt your website, but you know, in terms of equity, I don't think Google gives it much value, right? If all they're doing is hosting other people's content, I don't know how strong it is, especially if anybody can upload it. So in terms of an infographic website, the way I kind of siphoned out the bad ones and the good ones was any website which requires editorial review, I thought was a little bit safer. And I kind of used domain authority to kind of cut it off around like anything under, let's say, 50 or 40, I'm not going to bother with. That's kind of a way to parse the good ones from the bad ones.
I have a question.
Sure.
If you upload your infographics to SlideShare,
Yeah.
and somebody links to your infographic from what they found on SlideShare, like, did you notice that people were linking directly to the SlideShare? Like, is that
So yeah,
valuable?
so obviously on SlideShare and visually and easily, you're going to have a link to your company website. So for one of them, or both of them, they link to visually, and then you said original source, and it linked to the company link. So they'll give both links, and you'll get credit. If you didn't, obviously you would reach out to them immediately and demand a link.
And you did that through the reverse Google image search?
It's funny you should mention that, because I was talking about finding links off the cuff.
You're welcome for leaving.
Very necessary. You know, I found OpenSite Explorer and Freshcode, they don't catch everything. OpenSite, as good as it is, for example, this morning I went to Google and I just typed in the title of infographic and I saw a link. It wasn't an OpenSite yet. So just going to Google every so often, especially right after you publish, just to monitor websites that might repurpose, repost, or scrape, etc. Also reverse image search. I found also a bunch that way. I found it to be the most effective. It's also kind of exciting, you know, you don't know what you're going to find. We actually found an Italian website and, what was the other country?
Romania.
Romania, yeah, a Romanian website which kind of scraped the content. It was in a different language, so I don't know if they rewrote it, but they posted our infographic. We didn't get a link yet, but the correspondence is ongoing.
In Romanian or English?
I used a little bit of Romanian in the outreach, which I think was clever, right? Got to be agile. You have to be able to speak Romanian sometimes.
Did you like Google Translate?
I did. Anyways, my initial results, now this is still ongoing, but there were 15 total experts who participated in the end, all of which on some level agreed to be listed as a reference. We got 4 links immediately, well not immediately, but in the first week. 2 future links, right? 2 people who are basically, one of them said their dog died. I believe them because the correspondence up until then was actually was stellar. You couldn't have asked for a better expert to participate with. So I said, okay, I'm going to just wait 6 weeks. I'll contact her again. So I have another week to follow up with her. And then the other guy was the one who I'm going to feature in an interview. So I can expect 6 links from these participants. There were 3 who their sleep expertise was kind of a little different niche area, and they expressed hesitation in terms of linking to us from their blogs. So I said, actually, we're going to be doing a new infographic, which is much more within your field. Would you like to participate? And all 3 are on board. So I have these 3 who I can now pencil in, I don't know for a link, but probably, for at least 2 out of 3 of them, and they'll be able to participate in the future. 4 people declined, but 2 of them shared on social media, and 2 people disappeared, which is really the hardest thing in terms of this. There were 2 experts who were just emailing, they participated, they were listed as a reference, and then they just disappeared. They didn't respond to my initial email, to the Dermy. It's a little bit kind of, not upsetting, but it's a little bit annoying. It's like, what happened to this person? And obviously there's only so many emails that you could send to somebody. But yeah.
What about in terms of rankings, traffic?
I guess I'll get to that at the end, but yeah. Let me follow up on that. But basically, in terms of the results, I got 1 submission link to a pretty big blog. They have a proper submission thing. Hey, anything interesting content, submit it to us. If we like it, we'll repurpose it. Another one I got from this website, Bustle. They just found it randomly, I think, on Visually. It was pretty cool. They rewrote a whole article, and they linked to my content. 3 design sites also found it, I think, through Visually, and they basically, they like the illustrations, and they linked to it that way. And then there were the 2 unlinked mentions, which was from the Romanian site and the Italian, whatever it was, I don't remember. But yeah, so. And then there are client expectations. Now it's funny, it's a double-edged sword.
It's a single-edged sword.
So that's the thing. If you Google double-edged sword, you're going to get regular swords. And I'm thinking, wait a second. I never really thought of an image of a double-edged sword before, but apparently a double-edged sword is a regular sword, which is so sharp that it can cut both that way and that way. Whatever that means. Take it how you want it. But anyways, the point is, when in terms of client expectations, you have to explain, when you get links, right, it's very important that you appreciate how difficult it was to get them, right? Why is that a double-edged sword? Because if you stress how difficult it is to get links and then you don't get any, it's like, well, what are you doing over there? So it's kind of it's tricky. So what you want to do, I think, is to mention other aspects, right? Relationships, right? These are bloggers who, either we got a link or we didn't, but maybe we'll get an interview with them down the line, right? Things like that. Also, they now own this cool visual asset. It's evergreen. As David asked before, it can now rank, in the search engine. It can bring traffic, and not just organic traffic. You can get a lot of referral traffic, direct traffic, things like that. And obviously, if there's enough text in your content, right outside of the image, that can be crawlable as well and assist in rankings and ultimately traffic. And that is the end of the beginning, which I say because I look forward to many more link building projects and collaborating with all of you who have helped. And that is the end. Thank you very much. All right. How do we stop the recording?
Are there any questions before we?
Do you feel like the client really appreciated what you were able to accomplish?
Yes. I do.
Okay.
About the subject line that he asked before,
Yeah.
I'm wondering the same thing.
David, if you want to answer that, because David helped a lot with the email outreach.
Right. I mean, you'd probably do something like sleep experts interview, sleep experts question to say that you're writing something because they're a sleeper, sleep expert, you may want to deviate from the survey, because like you said, it could go to spam, and then do that.
So I actually did that. I wrote sleep expert survey, but what I did, I think, for one batch of emails, and I learned this, I think, from Neil Patel, was basically to use all lowercase, right? Because formal emails always have like uppercase first letter, and then like, you know, formal sleep expert survey, right? But if he said if you do everything lowercase, it's kind of like, oh, that's interesting. That looks like it's an actual human being, right? Maybe they're not, you know, very careful with their grammar, but I know it's a person. And then another thing was, I put the first name of the person, so it was like Catherine, also lowercase, dash, sleep expert survey, or Catherine, we want your sleep expertise. Kind of like, you know, cutesy creative things to show that you're a human being. Obviously, it takes away from the formal grammatical aspect, but like, I think I got a little bit of a better response rate when I used this kind of fun manner.